Well, this whole thing is going on, that at least in the news channels, they're still talking this is Kalyuga, Kalyuga, because Krishna said it's Kalyuga. When? 5,124 years ago. So since then, the cumulative aspect of Kali, which lasts for 2,592 years, is over, and Dwapara is also 2,592 years. That will get over sometime in 2082. That means another 58 years, is it? 58 years. Nearly 60 years. If you live for another 60 years, you'll see Treta Yuga. This doesn't mean on one day it'll become Treta. See, when we say winter, it doesn't mean one fine day it's winter. It happens. Summer, it's not like one day suddenly it became summer, it slowly happens. So what you're calling as yugas is a kind of a larger season, larger scape of seasons. In these seasons, in winter, trees are one way, animals are another way, in spring they're another way, in summer they're another way. Similarly, life on this planet will be different ways in these different yugas because this is a super seasonal system. So Kali is a time when we are furthest end of the elliptical cycle. Because of that, there are many ways to look at it. One important thing is, see, among the 5 bodies or the 5 layers of bodies that we carry, particularly with reference to human beings, the physical body or Annamaya Kosha, mental body or Manomaya Kosha, energy body or Pranamaya Kosha, and Vijnanamaya Kosha or the etheric body. The question is always about how much Annamaya Kosha do you have, how dominant is your Annamaya Kosha, or how dominant is your Manomaya Kosha, or how dominant is your etheric or Vijnanamaya Kosha. Accordingly, you will function. So these seasons in some way determine this. One can see in the 4 seasons that we see, in this country, in this at 11 degrees latitude, you may not notice it so much, but it is there, only because they noticed it. Tamil Nadu has Margali Masam and Magha Masam, various other… across the country, everybody recognized that month as a low-spirited month, and so people are doing things to enhance themselves. But if you go to temperate countries, significantly different between winter situations and spring situations, phenomenal difference. You can't believe you're in the same world. If you go in the winter, like everything looks like it's the end of the world. Spring comes, boom, everything is back. So, at least in this part of the hemisphere or the northern half of the hemisphere, it is like this. It is reverse in the southern hemisphere, but the same things happen. So similarly, in the super cycle also the same thing happens. But in terms of human beings, whether your physical body is dominant or mental body is dominant, energetic body is dominant or etheric body is dominant, depends on where these regular yearly cycles are also like that to some extent, but the super cycle decides a lot more. In which yuga you are determines how much etheric body. This does not mean it's a determining factor, absolutely. It is not an absolute, it is an influence. You can be in any yuga and be fantastic. You can be in any yuga and be a mess. This experience of all this is not a question of you being good or bad or you being… People are going about saying, see, the moment you have prejudice about something, somebody becomes a sinner and somebody becomes a saint. How does this happen? You set some values. If somebody cannot live up to that, they are sinners. If somebody can live up to that, they are saints. But these values keep changing from geography to geography, age to age, time to time, they're changing. That's not the important thing. The important thing is we understand that as we sit here, we are who we are as a consequence of what we are doing within ourselves. Now the question is only, is what we are doing within ourselves happening consciously or unconsciously? If we are doing it consciously, the consequence would be the way we want it. If we are doing it unconsciously, the consequence is random, and the random consequence may be sometimes very painful, sometimes troublesome to you, largely to others. Hello? If you start acting crazy, you're troubled of course, but you may get extra attention. But others suffer a lot, people around you. So, these aspects are not absolutes, but this is the general influence. Well, during the Kalyug, which ended 2000 plus years ago, these were called the dark ages, because human beings did terrible things to each other, and not only did terrible things, they did it large scale. That doesn't mean we did not do terrible things in Dwapara Yuga, we also did. But still, it is not the norm, at least we know it's wrong. That's a big difference. If you're doing something terrible, at least you know this is not the thing to do. You think that's the right thing to do, then it's a different case because there's no room for correction. That will become the way of the world itself, which is what it was in the past. Many things that we think is impossible that human beings can do were normally done in the past and accepted as the right thing to do. So, we are just close to Treta Yuga, we don't have to wait for it. See, it didn't wait, it's not yet summer, but already it's making us sweat. Why don't we also be one step ahead of times? Hello? So this is why it's very important. Whether the previous generations put the foundation for something or not determines how much the next generation will build, isn't it? This goes for a house, this goes for a nation, this goes for your consciousness. How much foundation have people will build will determine how much the future generations will do. So this is where we are in terms of time. You may not see the glorious palace that will be built on top of it, but at least you made the foundations and maybe you built a mock room and enjoyed it also, little bit of palace, which we are beginning to in many ways. There are a whole lot of people going on propagating, life is getting worse day by day, life is getting worse day by day. But please look at it, how people lived here 500 years ago, how we are living today. Isn't everything better? Everything, especially ladies. You have to say big yes. Yes! Because for women on this planet, life has never been this good ever, all over the world. So, how we make the next step is in our hands. We are like this because somebody built something fundamental, so we have come to this place. But how we create the next step or how the next generations live is determined by us. So at a time like this, when I say at a time like this, when we are moving from one yuga to another, when the season is changing from winter to spring, we must be ready to blossom. Hello? In many ways, the times we are in are very significant because I may not see it, I will not see it, but many of you young people will see it that we are moving from Dwapara Yuga to Treta.
Cycles.
84. Out of these 21, 10 are almost non-physical. The remaining 11 are somewhat mildly physical. If you look into this piece of creation, the whole creation is present in a footprint form. Looking at the footprint, I know where it is going.
And then the point I made was that even physics itself claims that there are higher dimensions. Because Newton had three-dimensional space, Einstein said there was four-dimensional space, space and time being merged, which of course agrees with what you were saying earlier, that space and time are basically the same. And then I explained how they introduced the fifth dimension to explain electromagnetism, and then how they introduced 6 more dimensions in superstring theory, in order to describe all the physical interactions. So then you had a 10-dimensional world. And then finally I said with M theory, we had the idea there was another dimension, so you have an 11-dimensional space. And Sadhguru made the fascinating remark, which was new to me, that actually 11 dimensions is precisely what arises in some of the traditions. Maybe we can come back to that. We started off talking about the cycles of the universe. And there was something which intrigued me. In one of your films, or one of the interviews, I've heard you talking about the fact that there were a certain number of cycles.
84.
84, exactly. But I'm fascinated, where does the figure 84 come from, and why 84?
See, there is a continuous talk about Big Bang.
Yeah.
I was talking to one of the scientists who's written a book on endless universe. Yes, endless universe, that's the title of the book.
Paul Steinhardt.
Yes. Then I asked him a simple question. Is it possible there could have been many bangs? He did like that, and then he said, possible. Then I said, if there are many bangs, see, if you have an automobile, if you take off the manifold, you will see the engine will go bang, 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 bang. If you throttle up, it'll roar. So I said, if there was a series of bangs, could it have been a roar? He said, why not? Possibly. I said, we've always been saying it's a roar, so we called the first form as the Rudra. Rudra means the one who roars. He roared. Like this, then we evolved many forms to describe this. This was Kala, this was Mahakala, this was Kala, this was Rudra, this is the first form, and then the many forms, how they came, there are various aspects to it. So these 84, out of these 84, many have dissolved. Their bare, vague footprint is there, but they have dissolved. But the footprint is there in this. 21 of them have a little larger footprint.
Oh.
Out of these 21, 10 are almost non-physical. So non-physical, let's say. The remaining 11 are somewhat mildly physical. But the last 4 are reasonably physical. So we see this number 21 as an important process. Whatever we want to do, we do it in 21 minutes, in 21 ways, and all this, because these 21 still have a footprint. If you want to rise beyond your physicality, absolutely, you have to rise beyond all the 21. But you don't have to bother about those things, because if you rise above the physical nature, not just in terms of physical body, but even the information is physical. All information that you carry, which makes you you, whether dead or alive, it still makes you you. That one, we want to rise beyond that. So that imprint carries all this. And out of the 84, 21 are still manifest in different levels of, for lack of words, I'm saying transience. From almost non-existent. Others below 21, they're completely gone. But their footprint is still there. They don't have any influence or impact. Their qualities are not imprinted in us. But these 21 qualities are there in us. How many more will happen? 112 will happen.
112.
112. Each one of them may take whatever they've calculated these yojanas as to how long it will take. That's not my number game, is not my game. So 112 times it will happen. After that, it will manifest in a way that it's non-physical and becomes a perpetual universe. A non-physical universe will manifest itself, that it doesn't need physical matter but exists. And even individual existence may happen, we don't know. It may happen, or one massive happening may happen, but a proper manifestation of universe without physicality. When that happens, that is the final one. All I am saying is, this simple thing that I am talking about, if I give you the footprints as to how this is evolved, if you can create a mathematical backbone to it, I think it will make sense to lots of people, and you will be seeing further, not with physical eyes, but mathematically you will be seeing much further than where you are seeing right now.
That's fascinating, because that is not one of the standard modern cosmological theories, you see. So, but what you're saying is that you've got these cycles which at some stage evolve beyond the straightforward physical.
The beautiful thing is, they're clearly defining this. It is all, see, because the Indian cosmology is built and personified in a certain way. Most people, Indian origin people, will know this. There is a coiled up snake upon which a god is lying down. That snake is called Shesha. Shesha means, when we are learning mathematics and Indian languages, the remainder. What do you call it? Remainder. Remainder is called Shesha. What is remaining is Shesha. Even in our common language we use that. Shesha means something left over. So, this snake is the Shesha upon which once again creation begins. So this Shesha leftover, the leftovers are there from last 21 universes. But the imprint of the leftover is diminishing as you go backwards and increasing as you come forwards. But the last 4 are significant.
And so was consciousness in only some of these?
No. All of them were conscious, fully manifest universes.
All of them were.
But they ran out of time. That what was Kala became Mahakala, but it left footprints. In some footprints they're very strong, we can see exact nature of what they are. Some footprints are very weak, that we can barely see that they are there.
And is this evolution towards, after 112 cycles, a non-physical state? Does that correspond to a sort of evolution of consciousness?
In a way, it is like consciousness graduating, that without physical form it can manifest itself. These things are not today. These things have been spoken millennia ago. How do they know all this? The simple thing is like this. If you look into this piece of creation, the whole creation is present in a footprint form. By looking at my footprint, suppose I walk through the garden, by looking at my footprint, you can measure my weight, my height, my gait. You can even guess how smart am I. Depending on how I navigate through spaces, you can see how smart you are. So in many ways, various aspects of this creation You will never be able to see this through physical approach or even mental approach, because mind, we see it as a physical projection. Mind is a little subtler projection of the body. So these things cannot be seen, but the footprint can be seen. With the footprint you can know most of the things. Only thing you cannot know is, what is my nature? You cannot know. But you can figure out, if I walk through, let's say, a difficult